Hi, this is Kevin Trainer, and I'd like to welcome you to part two of uh, my tutorial on relational data modeling. Um, this is the part where we're going to draw the entity relationship diagram. In part one, we looked at the application that we had collected the requirements for. And in particular, we looked at a use case diagram for the attendance system. And we did an exercise that I call the ragbag exercise. And so, again, we started with the use case diagram, which you see here in front of us. Here is a 3-pager. Okay. And then we took that and we created a ragbag of terms. So what we did is we started off with an unanalyzed list of terms, just things that we thought would be useful in coming up with an entity relationship diagram for a conceptual data model. So we first had sort of a brainstorm-oriented list of terms, and then we went through and we decided which of those were properly an entity type, which of those were properly an attribute that's going to appear on an entity type as a data item or field, okay? And which of them were relationship types. And then we also had a category for important instances, things that weren't types or attributes. And it turned out we didn't have any examples of those because those are kind of noise from the data modeling process. So what do we do now? Well, now we have, now we get into a part two where we draw the diagram. And typically, what I recommend you do is that you draw the blocks that we use for the entity types. You connect them with the lines that we use for the relationships. And then you fill in the attributes. And then as some kind of a final task, you probably want to kind of validate the model and make improvements and look for errors and things like that. But we're going to leave that for part three. Okay? So the tool that we're going to use for this is Visio 2013. And we happen to be using it for our course because it is free for our students. And it's a pretty good diagrammer, not the best. So here I've fired up a copy of Visio 2013. And I'm going to look for our template that we're going to use under categories. And then under categories, there's a category called software and database. Okay. And within that, we have a number of options for templates. Okay. So if we were covering in the course that I teach, the systems analysis course, if we were using the original notation that was used by Professor Chen, who was the originator of entity relationship diagrams, we would use this first template. We're not going to use that. The one that we are going to use is this thing called crow's foot database notation. And we're using that for a couple of reasons. One is that it's the notation that we're using in the course. And that's because it's the notation that we're using in our textbook. And of course, those things are pretty tightly coupled to each other. And the other is that this is a notation that's used in the business world a lot. So, whereas the Chen notation is very popular with academics and some people in the business world, I would say there are many more people in the business world using crow's foot notation. So that's the reason we're going to use that. So we're going to click on that and create the diagram. And here's our diagram. Okay. Now the first thing that I want to do is I want my diagram to be, to have the other orientation. Okay, so I'm going to go to Design, open the menu, and Orientation, and I'm going to pick Landscape because I typically like it in landscape orientation. And then I'm gonna file save this. So I'm gonna say file save as, and I'm going to put this into Documents. Okay, I've got that. So mine's going to go into Courseware Development, Infos 340, Examples, Conceptual ERD, and this is going to be Attendance System Conceptual ERD. All right, so there you go. So what are the big things that we're looking for? Well, the first thing we want to do is we want to get all the entity types out. Okay. Now in data modeling, a lot of times there's the terminology gets kind of blurred, right? So the boxes that we put onto entity relationship diagrams are for entity types. They're not for entity instances. So they're for person, not Kevin Trainer. Although sometimes we'll say this is an entity box instead of an entity type box because it's easier to say. So we're going to create an entity for each of the entities that we have. So let's shrink this and let's count the number of entities that we have. Entity types: student, instructor, system user, system administrator. I'm not sure. Maybe system administrator is just a special instance of system user. That's interesting. I think it is. So I'm going to cut that out of here and say the system administrator is an important instance now. Okay. That's just a particular system user or users. So that's a system user. It has a certain permission to play a role in a use case. Okay. So student, instructor, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. So we've got 8 of these. And let's pull out, let's go back to our diagrammer. And let's pull out 8 of these boxes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So let's try to remember who's who. Okay. So let's say we've got student is 1. Let's say instructor is another. Okay. Let's say course offering is another. Let's say semester is another. And what were some of the other names? Class meeting. Okay. Now I'm starting to draw blanks, so I'm going to go down and take a look at this. Student instructor system user, class meeting registration, permission for a use case. Okay. So let's just call this a permission. So permission, registration, system user. Okay. So we have registration, come on, system user, permission. Okay, that looks good. So let's kind of see. We've got these. I think we're going to have enough room. I'm going to try to fit these onto 2 pages now because, well, I don't want to be too crowded, right? Pull them around here, and they're not too crowded. Okay, and it'd kind of be nice if these were lined up a little better. Okay, let's go up here. And then I'll bring these down here. Okay, that looks like that's probably lined up. And then we'll line up this one with that one, and this one with that one there. Okay. So how about that? So we haven't done anything with attributes at all yet. Okay, and I just want to point that out. Okay. Now let's see what we've got here. But again, we've got student, instructor, course offering, semester, class meeting, registration, system user, permission. Okay. Let's see what we've got. Okay. Let's take a look at the list of entity types. Student, instructor, system user, course offering, semester, class meeting, registration, permission. I think we have that. Okay, I'm not going to worry about the attributes yet. Let's talk about how they're related to each other. Okay, so a student is registered for a particular class offering. Let's look at that. Okay. So we have a relationship between student and course offering. Okay, let's look at that. So we're going to go to relationship. We're going to say there are many students. I don't know if you can really see this, but the part that goes up has the many symbol on it, and the part that goes to the right has the 1 symbol on it. So I'm going to let the many connect to student, and I'm going to pull the 1 and have it connect to course offering. I like it to outline the whole outside. As soon as I get the whole outside outlined, it's good. Now I need to make these a little bigger. Okay. So let me do that. Okay, that's not too bad. So we're saying, okay, the relationship between student and course offering, and now here's the relationship line. Doesn't have a name yet. Okay. Um, we've got, here's how you read these. Okay. For each course offering, and then read to the other line, we've got 0 to many students. Okay. And then read for each student, read to the end of the other line, we've got one and only one course offering. No, that's not true. Okay. Why do we have a problem there? Well, students can be registered in more than one course. Okay. So, turns out that this concept of registration needs to come into play. Okay? Now, this is a pretty common situation where we have a many-to-many relationship between students and course offerings. Okay? And we use the registration to resolve that many-to-many relationship. Okay? And so we're saying that each student can have many registrations. So that's backwards now. So let's pull this out here and try to get it going the right way. Now, sometimes it's a little bit hard to get these things going the right way, but that worked okay. So one student can have many registrations, and now we have it going the right way. Now, if you're having a hard time in getting yours to work, increase the magnification. All right, because the problem that I often have is that when I'm zoomed out, these lines are very, very bulky. To the extent that I zoom in, they do better. Okay? So a registration is between a student and a course offering. Okay. And we have the same thing. So one course offering can have many registrations. All right, so let's pull the relationship out again. And remember, we want the many part to touch course offering. Okay. And we're going to want the one part to come up and touch registration. It doesn't seem to be behaving, so I don't have the exact end of it. So let's come up here. All right, that's that. So I think I have it going the right way, but now I need to get over top of this little dot in the middle, and I can pull it here. These guys are still in a bad spot, but I can pull the ends now. Let me pull the end to there, and let me get into the middle and try to square that up a little bit. And that's not perfect, but it's not too bad. Okay? For this diagrammer, it's probably pretty good. Okay? Okay. But it's backwards, isn't it? Yes, it is. So let's pull this off. So we can have many registrations per one course offering. Well, that's a little bit more vertical now too. Okay? So, what are we going to call these two? Well, this this entity that goes in the middle of this many-to-many relationship and resolves it, because in relational databases we'll find that we can't have any many-to-many direct relationships. We need to put these associative entities in the middle. So here, This is an associative entity called registration. So a student has a registration. So let's just double click on that and say has registration. Okay, and then let's go down and double click on this next line. And let's say the registration has a relationship to a course offering. It's for course offering. Okay, and that's the relationship there. So let's take a look at this just to be sure. One student can have many registrations. One registration is for one and only one student. That's fine. Let's look at it the other way. One registration is for one course offering. Each course offering can have many registrations. Well, that seems just about right. Okay, so let's look at here. We have a semester over here. Let's look at the relationship between course offerings and semesters. So each course offering is only going to happen in a particular semester. So we've got one and only one at the semester end. Each semester could have a number of course offerings, so we want the many at the course offering end. So let's pull out another relationship, and let's try to hook up the many side to course offering. Again, I like it when it's showing me the whole outline around the box. And then let's come over here and put the one side on semester and look at that. That looks good. So again, a semester can have read to the other end, 0 to many course offerings. A course offering can have read to the other end. It can be for one and only one semester. And then we need to come up with a name for the relationship. Now, I haven't really talked about the naming so far, but the naming can usually be very descriptive if it's in terms of one direction or the other. Okay, so we could say, for instance, course offering is for semester. And that's from course offering to semester. Or we could say for semester has course offerings. Okay, just pick one. Okay, they're very descriptive that way. So I'm going to say semester has course offering. Okay. And maybe it's not the best relationship name of all time, but it's pretty descriptive. It's only accurately descriptive in one direction. That's okay. Trying to come up with a name that is descriptive in both directions often leads to some very bad relationship names. Okay, now let's look at what we have. Well, we have an instructor and a course offering. So again, we can only have one instructor per course offering the way I interpret the rules. So let's think about that. We have one instructor per course offering. Okay, and but a particular instructor could teach many course offerings. Okay, and when I'm talking about a course offering, I mean a particular section of a course. Okay, 340-001 that meets on Monday and Wednesday from 9:30 to 11:15, or even longer than that. Okay, 9:30 till 10:45, actually. Even shorter than that. Okay. All right. So that's what I mean by course offering. Okay. So one instructor for many course offerings Each course offering has one instructor. Okay. Now, I could have different rules. How do I know what the right rules are? Well, I know what the right rules are when I understand what the rules of the business are. I understand that by talking to the business users. Okay? In this case, since the system is for me, I'm an expert user, I go, well, I can get by with just one instructor per course. Okay? Sounds good. So the many side's going to be on the course offering. So let's pull this out and try to get that hooked to here. And the one side, let's pull that up a little bit. The one side's going to be on instructor. So let's connect that to there. And again, when you get these in the wrong place, you can go get over top of the line segment that's in the wrong spot, get over top of the dot, click, and then roll them to the spot where you want them. Okay, this is pretty good. Okay. Let's say has instructor. Okay. So each course offering has one and only one instructor. Each instructor can have 0 to many course offerings. Okay, that sounds about right. All right, let's see what else we have left. We have class meeting, system user, and permission. Okay, so each class meeting is for a particular course offering. And each course offering can have many class meetings. So one course offering is the one side, class meeting is the many side. So let's pull out another relationship line and try to hook up class meeting with the many side. Okay, got that there. And let's try to pull up the one side to course offering. So let's say a particular course offering read to the other end has 0 to many class meetings. A class meeting read to the other end has one and only one course. It's for one and only one course offering. Okay, fine. And let's double click on that. And let's just call this has class meeting. Okay. All right. So these are the data that, these are the entity types, okay? We can have more than one student, okay? We can have more than one, and so each student is going to be an instance of the student entity type. More than one instructor in the system, there are instances of the instructor entity type. Each student can have, typically we won't put them in the system if they don't have any registrations at all, but before we put their registrations in, they might have 0 registrations. Each registration is going to be for just one course offering. Each course offering is going to have exactly one instructor, okay? And each course offering is going to be for just one semester, okay? And each course offering can have 0 to many class meetings, though we're expecting to have them have meetings, but before we populate the data, they're only going to have one. So that's all right. So let's talk about system users and permissions. Okay. So here's my concept of how a permission works. Okay. A permission is going to be the combination of a role and a use case. That's interesting. Okay, so we'll say that a particular user has a permission. It means they're allowed to play a particular role in a particular use case. Okay, so if I'm going to do that, I'm going to need roles and use cases too. So let's put their permission up here. Okay, and let's put the system user over here, and let's bring in a couple of more entity types. First of all, I want to save this because I'm on my way around. Okay, so I want to two more entity types. Okay. Okay, so we've got a role that the user can play, and those are going to go along with our actor names. Okay, and we've got a use case. Okay, and they are going to go along with our use case names. Okay, and we're going to say that a system user has a particular permission, and that permission has a role and a use case. Okay, so they're able to play the role of student in a particular use case. Okay. Now, let's even think about it. Does it have to be for a particular use case? Well, I'm thinking not. Okay, because let's go back and look at our diagram. So if you're a student, you can do all the student use cases. Okay. If you're an instructor in the simple version of this system, you can do all the instructor use cases. If you're a system administrator, you can do the authorized user use case, and you can do, and then everybody can be a system user. So you know what? Use case, we don't need. So when we want to get rid of something, we click on it to highlight it, and then we can cut it. So that's gone. So a permission is a particular user in a role. Okay. So how's that going to look? Well, a permission is going to be for one role, and one role could be in a lot of permissions because they could be for different people, right? So let's, again, let's pull out the many side and put it on permission. Okay, and then let's take the one side and put it on roles. We're going to say here, each permission is for one role. And pull it down to here. Okay, that's looking a little sloppy, but we'll see. Maybe we can clean it up a little bit. I don't know what we're going to have to do. Maybe we can pull it up to this side over here. Can we? Get over that dot and pull it up there. Well, it's as good as it looks right now. Sometimes it's a little bulky to get these things to work. Well, that looks like it's started to what I wanted. How about that? Okay. So the permission is for a role. So the relationship is called for role. Okay. And it's for a particular user. So the same thing, a particular user could have many permissions, right? So let's put the many, let's pull out a relationship, put the many on the permission side. Okay. Didn't really take, so let's pull it up there again. And let's put the one on the system user side. Okay. So a permission is for a role for a user. And so that one's going to be called for user. Okay. Now let's just take a peek. Well, no, I just want to do one more relationship. How do we connect these? How do we connect a system user to a student or an instructor? Well, we're going to have a way to do that. So to do that, I think we're going to want to come up the right side. And let's bring student over here too. And I'm not really liking this has registration here anymore. So let's see what we can do. Can we move this over here somewhere? How can we get this to be, well, that's a little better. I think this is going to work now. Okay. So again, the more magnification you have, the better you're going to do. All right. So now, a particular student, okay, can only be one system user, okay, and so there's a one-to-one relationship between those two, okay, and you might say, well, if there's a one-to-one relationship, do we really want it to be different? I mean, do we really want these to be different? And I'm thinking, yeah, the problem that we have here is that the capabilities that a student has are different from the capabilities that an instructor has. So we need to distinguish those two. And we could say that they're subtypes of user if we wanted to. Okay, so that's a possibility, I guess. But what I'm going to do here as a very simple start is say that there's a relationship between system user and student and system user and instructor. Okay. And for the diagrams that we have here, we're just going to pull out the relationship. And it doesn't really matter where the many is because these are going to be a one-to-one. Okay? So let's take this edge here and see if we can go all the way up. And if we can say a user can have a relationship with a student. Okay. And let's put that down here. And let's have another one where we say, well, a user might also have a relationship with an instructor. Not quite. Okay. All right. Now, a particular system user could be either a student, or they could be an instructor, or perhaps they're neither. Okay. A student can only be one user. Okay. So what I'm thinking is going in the direction between student and user. It's going to be one and only one. So let's come here. And we look for the properties, show multiplicity. No, that is not what I wanted. So let's not that. So there's going to be a slight pause where I find the right feature. Be right back. Okay, it was there, just a little bit hard to find for me because I hadn't looked in a while. So, so the line has two ends, and the cardinality symbols, the ones that are going to show one and only one, or zero to many, or 0 to 1. They're at one end or the other. So it calls one end of the line begin and the other end of the line end. So we're looking for the end of the line that is set to 0 or more, because I just know that's the bottom. And we want to set that to one and only one. So that's the begin symbol on this line. So we're going to change that to one and only one. And we'll see that we got one and only one. Okay. And let's do the same thing here. So let's look at the begin symbol, and that says 0 or more, and that's again the one we want to change. We want to change that to one and only one. All right. And then let's go up to the other end, okay? And it probably, we don't want them to be both an instructor and a student, because that's not likely. We don't want to say they have to be both an instructor and a student. So we want these to be 0 to 1. So let's go to the top one, highlight that, right click. And I think we want the begin symbol. Now, the last time we were on the begin symbol, they're both set to one and only one. So I think this one's going to be the end symbol. And we're going to say 0 or 1. Yep, it is 0 or 1. And I think it's the same thing here. So let's highlight that, right click, go to the end symbol, set that to 0 or 1, and then we've got 0 or 1 there. So we're saying that each system user is associated with 0 or 1 student and 0 or 1 instructors. And we're also saying that there's no control within the cardinalities that says you can either be a student or you can be an instructor, but not both. Okay. Now, we could maybe do that if we were using other diagram features called extended entity relationship diagrams, where we could have super entities and sub entities, but that's going to muddy the waters for our course. So this is what we've got here. We've got this information so far, okay? And I'm thinking that this is going to be a great place to finish part 2. We haven't put on the attributes yet, and we haven't done any kind of final tuning, but we have put on the entity types. We have put on the relationship types. Oh, let's just look at our list and make sure that there's nothing left over. So the entity types: student, instructor, system user, course offering, semester, class meeting, registration, permission. We have all those. The attributes we're not worried about yet. We'll do that in part 3. And then the relationship type: registered for, teaches, For semester attended, oh, we have to know that they attended a class meeting. We don't have that yet. So we got to fix that. Is meeting of, that's the relationship between the class meeting and the course offering. We have that. Is user for student, is user for instructor. We just added those. Has permission. We just added those. Those are two relationship because, or did we add a user has permission? Let's look. Maybe we didn't. Did we do that? Does a user have a permission for user? Oh, permission is for a user. So for user is the other side of has permission. So let's just change the name of that, since we've been said we want to say has permission right there. Okay. And the other one can say for role. Okay, that's good. Now, we haven't said that the student attends a class meeting yet. So let's say that if they've attended, there's a relationship. And if they haven't attended, if we don't know they've attended, if we don't know that fact, there isn't a relationship. So, and again, this is going to be very much like the last of the ones that we did, where, well, not completely. So a student can attend many meetings, 0 to many meetings, and a meeting is for, I would say 0 or 1, no, 0 to many students. Okay. So we're going to have some more work that needs to be done because there's a many to many again. Okay. And that's going to take an associative entity in the middle. All right. We're probably going to need something called an attendance. That's going to resolve the many-to-many relationship between student and class meeting. So I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm getting a little weary for part 2, and I think we know where we are. So we're gonna stop here for part 2, and then we're going to move on for part 3, where we will resolve the relationship between students and class meetings. We will get a good start on attributes, and then we'll wrap up our conceptual data model. So I'm going to say goodbye until part 3. Bye-bye.